Today we're going to talk about multiplying special cases. Now, these are intended to be shortcuts, but you can avoid using shortcuts when you're simplifying these expressions as well. We're going to warm up a little bit by multiplying with FOIL or double distribution, however you want to think about it, just making sure that you multiply everything from one set of parentheses to everything in the other. So if we were doing the warm-up problem number 5 here, j times j is j squared. J times 7, 7j. Then we're going to multiply the 5 by both of them. 5 times j is 5j, and 5 times 7 is 35. So then if we combine those j's in the middle, let's see, we have j squared plus 7j plus 5j is 12j, and then plus the 35. Let's hop over here, number 6. 2b times 3b is 6b squared. 2b times negative 8 is negative 16b. Negative 6 times 3b is negative 18b. And negative 6 times negative 8 is positive 48. Combining those b's in the middle, let's see, 6b squared, negative 16, negative 18 is negative 34b plus your 48. All right, down here, 4y times 5y is 20y squared. 4y times negative 2 is negative 8y. Inside, 1 times 5y is 5y. And 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Fun. So that would give us 20y squared, negative 3y minus 2. X times x is x squared. X times negative 4 is negative 4x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. So if we combine our x's in the middle, negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1, which you just write as negative x. Cool. We're all warmed up. We know how to FOIL. All right, so kind of ignore this rule for a second. When you have something squared, there's a shortcut, and it'll save you maybe 5 seconds if you're great at it. But I would say this, I almost wouldn't suggest this shortcut. So check it out. We'll show you the shortcut first, and then I'll kind of show you the way I think you're better suited to do these problems. So if you look, when you have a binomial squared, a plus b squared, if you look, it's going to turn into 3 terms. The first term is listed as a squared, which means your first term squared. Our first term here is x. If we square it, it's x squared. The second term, it says 2ab, which means 2 times the first term times the second term. So you multiply them together, and then you multiply by 2. So if I did x times 7, that's 7x times 2 is 14x. And then you look at the last thing, and it says plus b squared, plus our second term squared. 7 squared is 49. Now this is the final answer. Okay. All right. Here's what I think you're better off doing. When you see something squared, that means times itself. So I would have you write x plus 7 squared as x plus 7 times x plus 7. And then just FOIL it out like we've been doing. X times x is x squared, x times 7 is 7x, 7 times x is 7x, and 7 times 7 is 49, which still gives you x squared plus 14x plus 49. Cool. Again, this doesn't really save you much time, and I feel like it opens yourself up to more possible mistakes trying to shortcut it. But here's where, look, you have the first term squared because it's multiplied by itself. The middle term is the tough one for most kids. It's what you get when you multiply them together. X times 7 is 7x, and then you multiply by 2, because if you look, when we FOILed it, there were 2 of the exact same things. There were 2 of those 7x's. That's why you multiply by 2. And then you're doing the last term times the last term, so that's where you get that last term squared. Again, shortcut, not that short. But let's try it again here. You square the first term. 4k times 4k is 16 k squared. The last term is going to be the last term squared. 3 times 3 is 9, and it always comes out plus back there. The middle term is where we lose most of you. You multiply them together, and then you double it. You multiply that by 2. If we did 4k times negative 3, that's negative 12k. We're going to multiply by 2 because if we wrote it twice and foiled it, there would be 2 of those negative 12k's. So that would give us negative 24k. Again, highly recommend just write 4k minus 3 times 4k minus 3 and foil it out. It's really not that much longer to do it that way. So there's 3 for you to try here. We're going to do C together, and then I want you to try out the other 2. C's got, there's a little bit of weirdness because we have 2 different variables here. 7m minus 2p times 7m minus 2p. If we multiply the first, 7m times 7m is 49m squared. Now here's the weird part. We're multiplying m's times p. It's not that hard, it's just weird. When you multiply 2 different variables, you just mash them up next to each other. So 7 times 2 is 14, or negative 14 in this case. And when we do m times p, it's just mp. So 7m times negative 2p is negative 14 mp. And you want to make sure it's in alphabetical order, which it is. All right, negative 2p times 7m is going to give me the same thing, another negative 14 mp. And then here we have negative 2 times negative 2, that's positive 4. And then p times p is p squared. So we'll bring down our 49m squared. Negative 14 times 2, or negative 14 plus negative 14 is negative 28 mp. And then we have our plus 4 p squared. So try these 2 out. Again, I'd recommend writing it twice and foiling it. But pause it here, try it out, and check back in. Scooch over in case you need that one. There it is. Well, there's those 2. All right, now here's one where it actually is pretty nice. And let me show you by doing A here, just normal. If you look, it's d plus 11 times d minus 11. It's the same exact thing, except one is a plus, one's a minus. That's called a difference of squares. And let's see what happens if we just FOIL that out. So if we were to do d times d, it's d squared. D times negative 11 is negative 11d. Now we'll do positive 11 times d is positive 11d. And positive 11 times negative 11 is negative 121. Now, in the middle there you have negative 11d plus 11d. They cancel out. So we have our first term squared, and then it's minus 121. So here's the shortcut. And this one actually is a nice shortcut. If you recognize a difference of squares, which is pretty common, same thing, 1 plus, 1 minus. The middle terms always cancel out. So all you have to do is square the first term, put a minus, and square the second term. So if you look at B, same thing, c squared plus 8, c squared minus 8. You square the first term. If I did c squared times c squared, that's c to the 4th. You always put a minus because it's always going to be a positive times negative at the end. And then you square the last term. 8 times 8 is 64. This is what you would get if you FOIL it out. So don't worry if you forget this shortcut. You can still FOIL it, and it'll still work out to c to the 4th minus 64. Let's try this first one. T to the 3rd minus 6 times t to the 3rd plus 6. You square the first term. T to the 3rd times t to the 3rd would be t to the 6th. Put a minus, And then you square the last term. 6 times 6 is 36. Woo-hoo! Fun! If you look at C, same thing, except a plus and a minus. So we square the first term. 9v to the third times 9v to the third is 81v to the sixth. Put a minus, and then w to the fourth times w to the fourth is w to the eighth. Done. Done. What else do we have? That's it. Well, there's some practice. But we'll do the practice in class together.